Captain Elena Chen stood at the viewport of the UES Defiant, watching Earth's gleaming cities below. From space, you couldn't see the scars of the previous Kraxan attacks, but she knew they were there. 3 billion dead in the first wave alone. Now, 6 months later, the Kraxan Empire had returned to finish what they started. Multiple hyperspace signatures detected. Lieutenant Sarah Wong announced from her station, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. The Kraxan fleet is arriving. One by one, massive warships materialized against the backdrop of stars. Sleek, crystalline vessels that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The Kraxan Empire's 47th Annihilation Fleet, led by High Admiral Vexthor himself, 200 ships against Earth's last defender. Elena's hand unconsciously touched the quantum core control panel integrated into her command chair. The Defiant was humanity's final gambit, a ship unlike any other in known space. While the Kraxan Empire had spent centuries perfecting their energy weapons and shield technology, humanity had been quietly exploring an entirely different path. "They're hailing us," Wong reported. "Put them through." The holographic display flickered to life, revealing High Admiral Vexthor's imposing figure. Like all Kraxan, his crystalline exoskeleton caught the light in hypnotic patterns, and his 4 eyes regarded Elena with clear disdain. "So this is Earth's last defense," he said, mandibles clicking in amusement. "One ship. I expected your species to at least die with some dignity." Elena kept her expression neutral. "We're here to negotiate terms." "Terms?" Vexthor laughed, the sound like breaking glass. "Your species had its chance to submit to imperial rule. Now you will be exterminated, and your world will be cleansed for proper colonization. Though I admit, I'm curious about this lone vessel you've sent to face us. Our scans can barely read it." "The Defiant is a new design," Elena said carefully. "Would you like a demonstration?" In the corner of her vision, she saw her crew executing their carefully rehearsed preparations. Chief Engineer Marcus Rivera's hands flew across his console as he managed the quantum core's power distribution. Lieutenant Wong was plotting jump coordinates with microscopic precision. And Dr. Amelia Nash, the architect of their salvation, monitored the experimental systems she'd spent the last decade developing. A demonstration. Vexthor's mandibles clicked faster, a sign of excitement in Kraxan body language. "Very well. Amuse me before you die. It will make a fitting addition to the historical records of your species' final moments." Elena allowed herself a small smile. "Coordinate lock confirmed," Wong reported quietly. "Core synchronization at optimal levels," Rivera added. "Quantum field stabilized and ready," Dr. Nash said, her voice barely above a whisper. Elena's fingers tightened on her armrests. Everything humanity had left had gone into this ship, this moment. The Defiant wasn't just a vessel. It was the culmination of a scientific understanding that the Kraxan Empire, for all their technological superiority, had never even considered pursuing. "Very well, Admiral," Elena said. "Here's your demonstration." She activated the quantum drive. Reality twisted. The Defiant didn't just move through space, it moved through probability itself. Dr. Nash's quantum tunneling technology allowed the ship to exist in multiple states simultaneously, to be everywhere and nowhere at once. To the Kraxan fleet, the Defiant seemed to multiply, hundreds of identical ships suddenly surrounding them. Each one was real, and none of them were quantum echoes existing in superposition until observed. "What trickery is this?" Vexthor demanded, his crystalline features distorting with rage. "The future," Elena replied. With a thought, she collapsed the quantum field. Physics demanded that all those probability states resolve into one reality, and Dr. Nash had figured out how to choose which reality manifested. In this case, every quantum echo of the Defiant had been armed with a payload of antimatter. The Kraxan fleet never had a chance to react. Their shields were useless against weapons that existed in quantum superposition until the moment of impact. 200 ships vanished in a cascade of light as dozens of antimatter warheads detonated simultaneously across their formation. When the light faded, High Admiral Vexthor's command ship was the only survivor, its crystalline hull cracked and failing. The horror in his four eyes was plainly visible through the holographic display. "Impossible," he whispered. "What are you?" "We're human," Elena said simply, "and we're done being underestimated." She turned to Wang. "Target their engines. Let's make sure the Admiral survives to deliver our message to the Empire." As Wang executed the order, Elena reflected on the moment's significance. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was humanity's declaration to the galaxy. The Kraxan Empire had dismissed them as primitives, meant to be conquered or exterminated. Instead, they'd forced humanity to innovate in ways no other species had imagined. The quantum core hummed beneath Elena's feet, a reminder that this was just the beginning. Earth would not only survive, it would reshape the galaxy's understanding of what was possible. And it all started here, with one ship that refused to accept extinction as an option. Message sent, Wang reported as the disabled Kraxan flagship drifted helplessly. "Take us home," Elena ordered. "I believe we have some good news for Earth Defense Command." As the Defiant turned back toward the blue marble of humanity's homeworld, Elena allowed herself to fully feel the weight of what they'd accomplished. They hadn't just won a battle. They'd changed the rules of warfare itself. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, the Kraxan Empire was about to learn a lesson that would echo through history. Never underestimate humanity's capacity to evolve. The halls of Earth Defense Command buzzed with an energy that hadn't been felt since before the first Kraxan attack. Captain Elena Chen walked through them, with Dr. Amelia Nash at her side, both women still processing the events of the past 48 hours. Their victory had changed everything. But not everyone understood just how much. "They're already calling it the miracle of Saul," Amelia said, checking her tablet. "Though I prefer to think of it as applied quantum mechanics." Elena smiled. "The miracle was you figuring out how to stabilize quantum superposition on a macroscopic scale. The Kraxans still think we used some kind of advanced holographic technology." "Good," Amelia replied. "Let them chase that red herring. The longer they spend trying to defend against the wrong thing, the more time we have to perfect the quantum drive." They reached the main conference room, where Fleet Admiral Zhang waited with the rest of Earth's military leadership. The room's massive windows offered a view of Singapore's rebuilt skyline, where construction drones worked tirelessly to repair the damage from the previous attacks. "Captain Chen, Dr. Nash," Zhang greeted them. "Please sit. We have much to discuss." Elena took her seat, noting the mix of hope and anxiety on the faces around her. The Defiant's victory had bought them time, but everyone knew the Kraxan Empire wouldn't stop with one defeat. "Our intelligence networks report chaos in the Empire," Zhang began. "High Admiral Vexthor's return with news of his fleet's destruction has sparked a political crisis. The Imperial Court refuses to believe that a primitive human vessel could achieve such a thing. Their arrogance works in our favor," Elena said. "The quantum drive's effectiveness relies partly on the fact that they don't believe it's possible." Amelia pulled up a holographic display of the Defiant's core systems. The quantum drive exploits a fundamental blind spot in Kraxan technology. They've mastered energy manipulation but never explored quantum mechanics beyond the most basic level. They literally cannot detect what we're doing because their sensors aren't designed to measure quantum states. "And how long can we maintain that advantage?" someone asked. "That depends," Amelia replied. "We've already begun retrofitting other ships with quantum cores, but each one requires precise calibration. More importantly, we're learning new applications every day. The Defiant only scratched the surface of what's possible." Elena thought back to the battle, to the moment when reality itself had seemed to fracture around her ship. Dr. Nash's breakthrough wasn't just creating quantum superposition on a large scale. It was giving us control over which probability state becomes reality. The hologram shifted, showing simulations of new quantum applications. "Imagine ships that can phase through solid matter," Amelia explained. Weapons that strike their targets before they're fired. Communication that's truly instantaneous across any distance. The quantum realm isn't bound by conventional physics. And the Craxan? Zhang asked. How long before they adapt? They'll try, Alina said, but they're handicapped by their own assumptions. Their entire civilization is built on manipulating energy and matter in conventional ways. Quantum mechanics challenges their fundamental understanding of reality. It would be like humans of 1,000 years ago trying to comprehend nuclear fusion. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity hadn't just found a temporary tactical advantage. They'd discovered an entirely new domain of warfare that their enemies couldn't easily access. There's something else, Amelia added, her expression growing serious. The quantum drive has revealed possibilities we never imagined. We're detecting quantum fluctuations that suggest we might not be the first species to explore this technology. That got everyone's attention. Alina leaned forward. What do you mean? We're finding quantum artifacts, traces of intentional manipulation that predate human civilization. Someone else discovered this path before us, long ago. And I think, Amelia paused, choosing her words carefully. I think they might have left something for us to find. Before she could elaborate, alarms blared throughout the facility. John's console lit up with urgent reports. Multiple quantum signatures detected in the Proxima Centauri system, he announced. They don't match Craxan patterns. Alina and Amelia shared a look. Their victory over the Craxan fleet wasn't the end of humanity's journey into the quantum realm. It was just the beginning. Whatever they'd awakened with their breakthrough was responding, and the galaxy was about to become far more complex than anyone had imagined. Captain Chin, Zhang said, how soon can the Defiant be ready for another mission? Alina thought of her crew, of the quantum core humming with possibilities, and of the mysteries waiting in humanity's first colony system. We're ready now, sir. Just give the word. As they left the conference room to prepare for their next deployment, Alina noticed Amelia studying her quantum readings with intense focus. What do you expect we'll find out there? She asked the scientist. Amelia looked up, her eyes bright with excitement and trepidation. I don't know. But I think we're about to discover that humanity isn't the only species that refuse to accept the limitations others try to impose on them. And that might change everything. The UES Defiant dropped out of quantum superposition near Proxima Centauri, its sensors immediately scanning for the mysterious signatures they detected from Earth. The binary star system cast a crimson glow across the bridge as Captain Alina Chen studied the preliminary readings. Multiple quantum echoes detected, Lieutenant Wang reported. They're strange, Captain. The patterns are organized, but unlike anything we've recorded before. Dr. Amelia Nash worked furiously at her station, analyzing the data. These aren't random phenomena. They're deliberate quantum manipulations, far more sophisticated than our technology. Some of these probability states are maintaining stability without any visible support structure. Alina frowned. Could it be a natural phenomenon? No, Amelia said firmly. This is engineered. And it's responding to our presence. As if to confirm her words, the quantum signatures began to shift and coalesce. In the space between Proxima Centauri's two stars, reality rippled. The crew watched in amazement as a structure emerged from quantum superposition, a massive installation that seemed to be made of crystallized probability itself. It's a station, Chief Engineer Rivera breathed. But the architecture, it's not Craxan. It's not like anything in our database. Before Alina could respond, a transmission cut through their communications array. The message wasn't in any known language, but it somehow resonated directly in their minds, carrying concepts rather than words. The quantum key has been turned. The message conveyed. The sleepers acknowledge humanity's awakening. Amelia's hands trembled as she worked her console. Captain, the quantum patterns. They're similar to our drive technology, but orders of magnitude more complex. This installation has been here for thousands of years, waiting in quantum superposition until someone developed the ability to perceive it. "We're being invited to dock," Wang announced, surprise evident in her voice. "The station is generating a quantum tunnel that would allow us to phase directly inside." Elena stood from her command chair, decision made. "Dr. Nash, you said these beings left something for us to find. I think we just found it. Mr. Rivera, begin docking procedures. Lieutenant Wang, maintain combat readiness just in case this isn't as friendly as it appears." The Defiant slipped through the quantum tunnel with an ease that surprised even Amelia. Inside the station, they found chambers that defied conventional physics, spaces that were simultaneously vast and intimate, filled with technology that existed in multiple states at once. "This is incredible," Amelia whispered as they explored. They weren't just using quantum mechanics. They were living it. Their entire civilization existed in probability space. The station's systems continued to communicate with them, sharing knowledge in bursts of quantum-encoded information. The story it told was both fascinating and terrifying. Long ago, a species called the quantum architects had mastered the art of probability manipulation. They'd built an entire civilization that existed outside conventional spacetime, safe from the physical threats that plagued younger races. But they'd seen something coming, a threat that even their mastery of quantum mechanics couldn't counter. They left these installations throughout the galaxy, Amelia explained as she decoded more of the quantum data, waiting for other species to develop quantum technology naturally. They knew that any civilization that discovered it on their own would have the right combination of innovation and responsibility to handle what comes next. "And what is coming?" Elena asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. The station's next transmission confirmed her fears. The Kraxan Empire wasn't the true threat. They were just the most visible face of it. Behind them lurked something far worse: the entropy tide, a force that consumed probability itself, reducing all possibility to a single dead timeline. "The architects saw it coming," Amelia said quietly. "They couldn't stop it, but they could prepare others to fight it. That's what this station is, a library of quantum warfare techniques, left for species like us to find. The Kraxan Empire's invasion forced us to develop quantum technology ahead of schedule. The architects knew that would happen. It was one of the possibilities they prepared for." Elena absorbed this information, understanding now why humanity's quantum breakthrough had seemed to awaken something in the galaxy. "How long do we have?" "The entropy tide is already here," Amelia replied. "The Kraxan Empire's expansion is actually a response to it, though they don't realize it. They're running from something they can't comprehend, conquering worlds in a desperate attempt to gather resources for a fight they don't even know is coming." Around them, the station continued its awakening sequence, revealing more of its secrets. Humanity had stumbled into a war that had been waiting for them since before their species learned to make fire. But they'd also found allies, the legacy of an ancient race that had seen humanity's potential across thousands of years of probability. "Send a message to Earth Defense Command," Elena ordered. Tell them we found something that changes everything. And we're going to need more ships." 1 month after the discovery of the Architect Station, the UES Defiant led a fleet of 15 quantum-equipped ships through the contested space of the Kraxan Empire. Each vessel had been retrofitted with technology reverse-engineered from the Architect's database, though humanity was still just scratching the surface of what was possible. Captain Elena Chen watched from her command chair as the fleet executed another quantum jump, their ships existing in multiple states simultaneously to avoid Kraxan patrol routes. But they weren't here to fight. They had a different mission now. "Signal from the Kraxan colony world Vex Theory Prime," Lieutenant Wang reported. "They're ready to receive us." Elena nodded. "Take us in. Dr. Nash, how are the quantum readings?" Amelia studied her instruments with the intensity that had become her trademark since their discovery. "The entropy tide's effects are stronger here. The probability space is thinner somehow." The Architect's predictions were accurate. It's consuming reality from the edges inward. The fleet emerged from quantum superposition above a crystalline world that sparkled like a jewel. Vextheri Prime was one of the Craxan Empire's oldest colonies, and now it was about to become something else entirely. The first world to formally break away from Imperial control. The Craxan rebels are transmitting their security codes, Wong announced. Planetary defenses are standing down. This was the other change that had swept the galaxy in the past month, when word of humanity's quantum technology had spread. Along with carefully leaked hints about the Architect Station's revelations, the Craxan Empire had begun to fracture. Many of their scientists and younger leaders had recognized the truth that their rigid society had been blind to. The universe was far stranger and more dangerous than they had imagined. The Defiant docked at the primary space station, where Elena and Amelia met with the rebel leadership. Unlike the crystalline warriors they'd faced before, these Craxan wore their exoskeletons unmarked by military insignia, their four eyes bright with an almost human curiosity. "We've reviewed the data you shared," senior researcher Vextheri said, her mandibles moving in patterns that indicated excitement rather than aggression. "The quantum fluctuations we've detected on our outer colonies, they match your predictions exactly. The Empire is leading us to extinction through their denial. The entropy tide isn't just a threat to humanity or the Craxan," Elena explained. "It's consuming all possible futures, leaving only one path, one where all life eventually ends. The architects found a way to fight it by manipulating probability itself, but they knew it would take multiple species working together to succeed. Our quantum scientists have already begun studying the principles you shared," another rebel leader, Commander Vexthor, no relation to the High Admiral, added. "It's humbling to realize how much we missed by dismissing quantum mechanics as irrelevant to advanced civilization." Amelia activated a holographic display showing the spread of the entropy tide. "We're detecting more Architect installations activating across the galaxy. Each one seems calibrated to the species most likely to find it. They didn't just leave us technology. They left a network that could unite multiple civilizations against this threat. And now we must convince the rest of the Empire," Vextheri said grimly. "Many still cling to the old ways, believing that brute force and energy weapons can solve any problem." "They'll learn," Elena replied, "just as we did. Sometimes it takes facing extinction to force evolution." The meeting continued, planning the integration of Craxan quantum research with human discoveries. But Elena's attention was drawn to a sudden alert from the Defiant. She excused herself to check the message, finding her face growing pale as she read it. "What is it?" Amelia asked, joining her. "We just lost contact with 3 border colonies, human and Craxan," Elena said quietly. "Complete quantum collapse. No probability states remain in those systems at all. It's starting." The news spread through the station quickly, and Elena watched as fear and determination warred on both human and Craxan faces. The entropy tide was no longer a theoretical threat. It was here, consuming actual worlds, ending all possible futures for millions of beings. But as she looked around the room, Elena saw something that would have been impossible just months ago. Humans and Craxan working together, sharing ideas, building on each other's insights. The architects had known this would happen. It was one of the futures they had seen and prepared for. "We need to accelerate the program," Elena announced to the gathered leaders. "How quickly can we begin converting your ships with quantum drives?" Commander Vexthor's crystalline features caught the light as he turned to his staff. "With your assistance, we can have the first wave ready within days. But the Empire's loyalist fleets will have to be dealt with," Elena finished. "We don't have time for a prolonged civil war. Not anymore. Dr. Nash, do you still have access to that interesting application of quantum tunneling we discussed?" Amelia's eyes widened slightly. "The one that could theoretically disable ships without destroying them?" "Yes, but it's never been tested on Craxan vessels." "Well," Elena said, allowing herself a small smile, "I believe we're about to write some new chapters in the physics books. The architects left us their knowledge. Now it's time to prove we deserve it. The combined human Kraxan fleet hung in the quantum twilight of probability space, 300 ships existing in multiple states simultaneously. On the bridge of the UES Defiant, Captain Alina Chen watched the tactical display where the entropy tide's advance was marked in absolute darkness, regions where all possibility had been reduced to zero. "The quantum barrier is holding," Dr. Amelia Nash reported, her voice tense with concentration. "But the power drain is immense. We can't maintain this formation indefinitely." Elena nodded grimly. The barrier, a massive quantum field generated by their combined fleet, was the only thing holding back the tide of nothingness that threatened to consume the Arcturus sector and its billions of inhabitants. Behind them, evacuation ships streamed through carefully maintained probability corridors, carrying refugees from a dozen species to safety. "Status of the Imperial Loyalist Forces?" Elena asked. Lieutenant Wong checked her displays, still maintaining position on the far side of the sector. They're watching, Captain." 3 months of quantum warfare had convinced most of the Kraxan Empire to join the alliance, but some hardliners refused to accept the truth even as reality itself unraveled around them. Now they watched as their former enemies fought to save worlds they had once sought to conquer. "Quantum fluctuation detected," Amelia suddenly announced. "It's different from the tide, similar to the pattern we saw at the Architect Station." Before Elena could respond, reality shifted. In the space between their fleet and the advancing darkness, probability crystallized into a massive structure. Another Architect installation, but this one was active, humming with quantum energy that made their own technology seem primitive by comparison. "We're receiving a transmission," Wong reported. "It's broadcasting on all frequencies, in all possible quantum states simultaneously." The message that filled their minds was clearer than the one they'd received at Proxima Centauri, carrying not just concepts but emotions, history, purpose. The architects spoke through time itself, their final message waiting until this exact moment to manifest. "They didn't just leave us their technology," Amelia whispered as she processed the quantum data. "They left us their legacy. This installation, it's not just a weapon or a shield. It's a seed." Elena understood. The architects hadn't merely retreated from the entropy tide. They had scattered themselves across probability space, hiding pieces of their civilization in quantum superposition, waiting for the right combination of species to find them and carry their work forward. "All ships maintain the quantum barrier," Elena ordered. "Dr. Nash, can you interface our fleet's quantum network with the installation?" Amelia's hands flew across her console. "Yes, but, Captain, this is going to change everything. The installation isn't just going to help us stop the entropy tide. It's going to transform everyone connected to the quantum network. We'll be something new." Elena looked at her crew, at the sensor readings showing the mixed species fleet working in perfect coordination, at the darkness that threatened to end all possibility. "We've already been transformed. Send the signal." The installation activated, its quantum energy flowing through the fleet's network. Elena felt it in her mind, in her cells, in reality itself. The transformation the architects had prepared for. Every being connected to the network experienced it simultaneously. An evolution of consciousness into quantum space, their minds expanding to perceive and manipulate probability directly. Through her expanded awareness, Elena saw the truth. The entropy tide wasn't a natural phenomenon. It was the universe's response to consciousness becoming too rigid, too certain, too fixed in its possibilities. The architects hadn't given them weapons to fight it. They'd given them the ability to restore balance to reality itself. As one, the transformed fleet reached out with their new awareness. Where the entropy tide sought to collapse all probability to a single point, they expanded it, their combined consciousness restoring the infinite possibilities that made existence itself possible. The darkness retreated, not destroyed but transformed, balanced by their newfound understanding. In that moment, Elena saw countless possible futures stretching before them. Humanity and the Kraxan, along with other species yet to join them, would spread through the galaxy not as conquerors, but as guardians of possibility itself. The architect's gift wasn't just salvation. It was an invitation to become something greater. Hours later, as the transformed fleet escorted the evacuation ships to safety, Elena stood on the Defiance Bridge looking much the same but feeling fundamentally changed. The universe sparkled with quantum potential that she could now see and touch directly. Message from the Imperial Loyalist Forces, Wang reported, a new understanding in her voice. They're requesting permission to approach, to learn. Elena smiled. The architects had known this too would happen, that facing the ultimate collapse of possibility would teach even the most rigid minds to embrace change. Humanity's greatest strength had never been its technology or its weapons, but its ability to adapt, to imagine new possibilities, to welcome transformation. Tell them they're welcome to join us, Elena said. After all, the universe just got a lot more interesting. Dr. Nash looked up from her station, her consciousness now perceiving quantum mechanics as naturally as breathing. So, Captain, where do we go from here? Elena looked at the galaxy map, now alive with quantum potential, showing countless paths forward. Everywhere, she said simply. We go everywhere.